The wine glasses on my kitchen counter should have been my first warning. 3 of them, arranged like a firing squad, each one perfectly positioned next to my wife's laptop. When I walked through the front door after 12 hours of managing construction crews in the Boston heat, the last thing I expected was an intervention. "Ethan, we need to talk." Lena's voice carried that particular tone I'd learned to dread over our 8 years of marriage. Sweet on the surface, steel underneath. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She sat at our granite kitchen island, flanked by her 3 closest friends, Maddie, Chelsea, and Priya. They looked like a tribunal of suburban judgment, each clutching their wine like ammunition. "Ladies," I said, dropping my work bag by the door. "This is unexpected." Maddie, Lena's self-appointed spokesperson, cleared her throat. She worked in HR at some tech company, which apparently qualified her to manage everyone else's personal life. "Ethan, we're here because we care about you. About both of you." I grabbed a beer from the fridge, noting how they'd arranged themselves strategically around my own kitchen. Classic power play. "Care about what, exactly?" "Your marriage," Chelsea chimed in. She was always the dramatic one, constantly posting every moment of her life on social media. We can see how unhappy Lena is. The beer bottle felt cold against my palm. I took a long drink, buying time to process what was happening. "Unhappy? News to me." Lena finally spoke, her voice soft and wounded. "Ethan, you know we've been struggling. You work all the time. You never want to go out anymore. You've let yourself go physically." "Let myself go?" I looked down at my work clothes, dusty from the construction site. I've gained maybe 10 pounds in 8 years. "It's not just the weight," Priya added quietly. She was usually the peacemaker, which made her participation particularly stinging. "It's the lack of romance, ambition. You seem content just managing other people's projects instead of building something of your own." I leaned against the counter, studying their faces. This felt rehearsed, coordinated. "So you called in the cavalry to tell me I'm a disappointing husband?" "We're trying to help," Maddie insisted. "Lena deserves to be happy. You both do. But she needs more passion in her life, more excitement." Something cold settled in my stomach. "What kind of excitement?" Chelsea jumped in eagerly. "Adventure, romance. Someone who appreciates how amazing she is, how hard she works at the gym, how beautiful she looks." "Someone who can match her energy," Priya added. "Someone who understands her needs," Maddie finished. The beer bottle was sweating in my grip. I set it down carefully, my mind racing. The way they kept glancing at each other, the careful phrasing, Lena's guilty expression. "This is interesting," I said slowly. "You're not here to help our marriage. You're here to end it." Lena's face flushed. "That's not... We just think you should know that there are other options, for both of us." "Other options." I repeated the words, tasting their bitterness. "Like what?" Maddie shifted uncomfortably. "Like finding someone who appreciates what you have to offer, and letting Lena find someone who can give her what she needs." "Someone who can make her feel alive again," Chelsea added. "Someone who's already making her feel that way?" I asked. The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Lena's face went pale. "Ethan," she started, but I held up my hand. "No, I'm curious now. See, this whole thing feels very specific, very informed. Like you know exactly what kind of excitement Lena needs. Like maybe you've seen her getting it elsewhere?" Maddie's composure cracked slightly. "We just want what's best for everyone involved." "Everyone involved?" I nodded slowly. "Including the guy who's been screwing my wife?" Chelsea gasped. Priya stared at her wine glass. Lena stood up abruptly. "Ethan, you're being paranoid." "Am I?" I walked over to where her laptop sat open. The screen showed her group chat with these 3 women. "Mind if I read what you've been discussing about my marriage?" "That's private," Lena snapped, reaching for the laptop. I was faster. Years of construction work had kept me in better shape than she thought. I spun the screen toward me and started reading aloud. "Greg thinks Ethan might get suspicious soon," I read in a calm voice. "Maybe we should do the intervention this week?" The room went silent. "Good idea," I continued. "The sooner we can get Ethan to accept reality, the sooner Lena can move forward with her life." Lena lunged for the laptop, but I held it out of reach. "Has she told him about the condo yet?" I kept reading. "Greg's getting impatient about making it official." Chelsea was recording on her phone now. probably for her social media drama collection. I didn't care anymore. 6 months, I said, scrolling through the messages. You've been planning this intervention for 6 months, while my wife has been living a double life with someone named Greg. Ethan, please, Lena's voice cracked. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I closed the laptop and looked at each of them in turn. You didn't come here to save my marriage. You came here to clear your consciences, to make yourselves feel better about helping my wife cheat on me. Maddie tried one last time. We genuinely believe this is best for everyone. Best for everyone. I laughed, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. You know what? You're absolutely right. I walked to the closet and pulled out my old travel bag, the one I'd used for work trips before Lena convinced me to take a local management position so I'd be home more. What are you doing? Lena asked. Taking your advice. I started packing clothes, moving with deliberate efficiency. You want excitement, adventure, someone who appreciates you? Go get it, tonight. Ethan, wait. We can talk about this. We just did. I zipped the bag closed. For 2 hours, you and your friends explained exactly how disappointing I am, how I don't deserve you, how you need someone better. I shouldered the bag and walked toward the door. Lena stepped in front of me. Where are you going? Somewhere I'm not a project to be fixed or a problem to be solved. I gently moved her aside. Somewhere I'm not married to someone who needed a committee to break up with me. Ethan, please don't do this. I paused at the door and looked back at the 4 women who'd ambushed me in my own kitchen. Ladies, thank you for the intervention. It was very educational. What are you going to do? Chelsea asked, still recording. I smiled for the first time in months. I'm going to work on all those flaws you mentioned, starting with my next relationship. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. For the first time in years, I felt completely, brilliantly alive. Sam's garage smelled like motor oil and disappointment. My best friend since high school had the kind of setup every guy dreams about. Pristine tools, a vintage Camaro he'd been restoring for 15 years, and a mini fridge stocked with beer. It was the perfect place to fall apart. So, let me get this straight, Sam said, handing me a cold bottle. Your wife and her book club staged an intervention to tell you that you suck, and you just left? Pretty much. I took a long drink. Turns out it wasn't about fixing our marriage. It was about ending it with their blessing. Sam had been a cop for 12 years before a knee injury forced him into security work. He still thought like a detective, which meant he was already 3 steps ahead of me. You said there were messages about some guy named Greg? Greg thinks Ethan might get suspicious soon. I quoted from memory. Apparently he's been screwing my wife and getting impatient about going public. Did you screenshot the messages? I pulled out my phone. I'm not completely stupid. Sam studied the images, his expression growing darker with each swipe. Jesus, Ethan. This goes back months. Look at this one. Lena says the wellness retreat story worked perfectly. Ethan thinks she's getting healthy while she's actually getting happy. Wellness retreat? She told you she was going to some yoga thing last month, right? Weekend in the mountains? The memory hit like a punch. Lena had been so excited about her spiritual journey, talking about meditation and finding herself. She'd come back glowing, more energetic than I'd seen her in years. I'd been happy for her. I'm an idiot. No, you're trusting. There's a difference. Sam scrolled through more messages. But now you're informed. Question is, what do you want to do about it? I stared at the Camaro's engine, all chrome and precision. I want to know everything. Who he is, how long this has really been going on, what they're planning. That's the cop in me talking, but I like it. Sam grabbed his laptop. Let's start with the basics. What's Lena's phone situation? We're on the same plan. Shared location services. Perfect. Log into your account and let's see where your wife really spends her time. The location history was devastating. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks to pay for our lifestyle, Lena had been visiting an address in downtown Boston 3 times a week. Always during the day, always for 3 to 4 hours. That's not a gym, Sam observed. High-rise condo building. I zoomed in on the map. Expensive neighborhood. Greg's place? Has to be. Sam cracked his knuckles. Time for some reconnaissance. You know what kind of car she drives when she goes there? Her BMW, the one I'm still making payments on. Good. Here's what we're going to do. 2 hours later, I was parked across from 1247 Commonwealth Avenue with a clear view of the building's entrance. Sam had taught me the basics of surveillance. Stay mobile, vary your position, don't get emotionally invested in what you see. The last part was proving impossible. At 2:30 p.m., Lena's silver BMW pulled into the underground garage. She emerged wearing workout clothes that cost more than most people's rent, looking radiant and excited. A doorman greeted her like an old friend. At 6:15 p.m., she came out disheveled and glowing, her hair messed up in a way that had nothing to do with yoga. She kissed someone goodbye at the elevator, a tall, muscular man in an expensive suit. Greg. I took pictures of everything. That night, I sat in a motel room 20 miles from home, staring at the evidence on my phone. Text messages, location data, photographs, a complete record of my wife's double life. My phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "Where are you? We need to talk." I turned off the phone and opened another beer. Tomorrow, I'd start planning. Tonight, I just needed to sit with the truth. The woman I'd loved for 8 years, the woman I'd worked myself to exhaustion to provide for, had been living a completely separate life. With the help of her friends, she'd constructed an elaborate fiction that painted me as the problem in our marriage. But I wasn't the problem anymore. I was the solution. And Greg was about to find out exactly what kind of solution I could be. The real estate office screamed success. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble reception desk, and photographs of million-dollar properties covering every wall. Greg Mason's headshot dominated the display case. Top producer, 5 years running. He looked exactly like Central Casting's idea of a home wrecker. Square jaw, perfect teeth, the kind of tan that came from expensive vacations, everything I wasn't. "Mr. Bell?" The receptionist smiled brightly. "Mr. Mason is ready to see you." Greg's office was a monument to his ego. Awards, testimonials, and photos of him shaking hands with local politicians. He stood up as I entered, extending a hand with practiced charm. "Ethan, great to meet you. I understand you're looking for a downtown condo?" "That's right." I shook his hand, noting the expensive watch and manicured nails. "Something in the Commonwealth Avenue area. I hear you know that neighborhood well." "I live there myself, actually. Beautiful building, great amenities." He gestured to a chair. "What's your budget range?" "Whatever it takes. I'm going through a divorce. Need a fresh start." His expression shifted slightly. "Sorry to hear that. Divorce can be complicated." "Tell me about it. My wife's been very creative about hiding assets. Makes you wonder what else people hide, you know?" Greg's smile tightened. "Well, let's focus on finding you the perfect place. New beginnings and all that." For the next hour, he showed me listings and talked about market conditions. Professional, charming, completely unaware that I knew exactly who he was. I asked detailed questions about his building, memorizing security procedures and access codes he mentioned casually. "Would it be possible to see your place?" I asked as we wrapped up. "Get a feel for the layout, the view?" "That's a bit unusual. I'm serious about buying. Cash offer, quick close. I just want to make sure it's the right fit." Greed won over caution. "I suppose we could arrange something. How about tomorrow evening?" "Perfect." We shook hands again. This time I held on a moment longer than necessary. "Thanks, Greg. I have a feeling this is going to work out perfectly." That night, I called Sam from my motel room. "I'm in his office tomorrow at 7. Need you to do something for me." "Name it." "Can you still access vehicle registration databases?" "Unofficially? Maybe. Why?" "I want to know everything about Greg Mason's car. Make, model, license plate, where he parks it." "Planning something stupid?" "Planning something necessary." Sam sighed. "Text me his full name and address. I'll see what I can dig up." The next evening, I stood in Greg's living room, admiring the view of the Charles River while he poured expensive whiskey. The place was exactly what I'd expected. Sleek, modern, and soulless. The kind of space designed to impress rather than comfort. "Beautiful view," I said. "One of the best in the city. Really helps with entertaining." I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, noting the building's security cameras and exit points. "I bet you do a lot of entertaining." "Some. I work hard, play hard, you know?" On his kitchen counter, I spotted a familiar water bottle. Lena's gym had custom bottles made for their instructors. She'd been so proud of hers. "Nice bottle," I commented. Greg followed my gaze and his face went pale. "Oh, that. A friend left it here." "Must be a close friend. We should probably focus on the real estate." I turned to face him directly. "Actually, Greg, I think we should focus on the real reason I'm here." "I'm not sure what you mean." "I mean my wife, Lena, the friend who left her water bottle in your kitchen, the woman you've been screwing for the past 6 months." Greg's whiskey glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. You know about the intervention her friend staged. You know about the wellness retreat story. You know about the group chat where they planned how to get rid of me. He backed toward the door, but I didn't move. I just stood by the window, calm and still. Look, man, I don't want any trouble. Too late for that, Greg. You already bought trouble when you decided to help destroy my marriage. It's not like that. Lena said you two were already over, that you were just going through the motions. And you believed her? She's unhappy. She deserves someone who appreciates her. I laughed. Someone like you? A guy who helps married women lie to their husbands? You don't understand. What we have is real. It's not just physical, it's emotional, spiritual. Spiritual. I nodded. That's beautiful, Greg. Really touching. I walked toward him slowly, and he pressed back against the door. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly. You're going to end this thing with my wife. Tonight. You're going to tell her you made a mistake, that you can't see her anymore. I can't do that. Sure you can. Because if you don't, I'm going to make your life very, very complicated. Are you threatening me? I smiled. I'm promising you. See, I'm not the boring, predictable guy Lena thinks I am. I'm actually pretty creative when I'm motivated. Greg straightened up, trying to look tough. You can't intimidate me. Lena's going to leave you anyway. We're in love. Love. I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo I'd taken earlier. His Mercedes in the building's garage, with all 4 tires slashed. Is this love, Greg? His face went white. You bastard. That's just a preview. Cancel your date with my wife tonight, or tomorrow you'll find out what the main event looks like. I walked past him to the door, pausing with my hand on the handle. Oh, and Greg, next time you want to steal someone's wife, maybe don't leave evidence lying around your kitchen. I left him standing in his perfect apartment, surrounded by broken glass and the ruins of his perfect plan. In the elevator down, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Pure, electric satisfaction. The game was just beginning. The Riverside Festival was Brookline's biggest social event of the year. Local businesses set up booths, families brought picnics, and everyone who was anyone made an appearance. It was the perfect stage for what I had planned. I'd spent 3 days preparing. Sam had helped me set up fake social media accounts, create convincing text messages, and coordinate timing down to the minute. The beauty of the plan was its simplicity. Sometimes the best revenge is just telling the truth to the right audience. You sure about this? Sam asked as we positioned ourselves near the main stage. Once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Good. I adjusted the baseball cap that partially hid my face. I'm tired of being the only one who doesn't know my own life story. At 2 p.m., Lena arrived with her 3 friends, just as I'd expected. She looked stunning in a summer dress that I'd bought for her last anniversary. They set up their picnic blanket in the VIP area, close to the stage where the afternoon announcements would be made. At 2:15, Greg appeared, scanning the crowd nervously. He'd been jumpy since our conversation at his condo, but Lena had convinced him I was just bluffing. The fake text messages I'd sent from a burner phone had done their job. He thought she wanted to meet here to discuss going public with their relationship. At 2:30, Mrs. Dorsey from the Neighborhood Gossip Network positioned herself near the sound booth, armed with the anonymous tip I'd provided about the festival's photo slideshow being hacked. Everything was in place. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed across the festival grounds. We're having some technical difficulties with our planned slideshow, but we'll have entertainment for you shortly. The large screen behind the stage flickered to life, showing what appeared to be a random collection of photos from social media. Festival attendees, local businesses, community events. Normal, wholesome images that had everyone smiling and pointing. Then Lena's face appeared on the 20-foot screen. It was a selfie from Greg's condo, taken in his bathroom mirror. She was wearing a hotel robe, her hair tousled, grinning at the camera. The timestamp showed it was taken during one of her yoga classes. The crowd murmured in confusion. A few people recognized her as the popular fitness instructor from the local gym. The next photo was Greg, shirtless in the same bathroom, flexing for the camera. Then both of them together, clearly intimate, clearly not at any wellness retreat. Lena shot to her feet, her face burning red. "Turn it off," she shouted, but her voice was lost in the growing crowd noise. The slideshow continued, screenshots of their text messages, with the most damning parts highlighted in bright yellow. "Can't wait to get rid of the dead weight. Ethan's so clueless, it's almost sad. Once the intervention works, we can stop sneaking around. Your friends are brilliant for thinking of this." The festival crowd was no longer confused. They were riveted. Phones came out, recording everything. Mrs. Dorsey was in her element, providing commentary to anyone within earshot. "That's Lena Bell," she announced loudly. "Married to that nice construction manager, Ethan. always seemed like such a devoted couple. Maddie, Chelsea, and Priya tried to blend into the crowd, but it was too late. The next series of screenshots showed their group chat, complete with their names and profile pictures. We should do the intervention this week. The sooner Ethan accepts reality, the better. Lena deserves to be happy, and Greg can give her everything Ethan can't. Once they're divorced, she can move into the condo full-time. Chelsea was crying now, probably more upset about being exposed than about the betrayal itself. Priya had disappeared entirely. Maddie was trying to pull Lena away from the crowd, but people were approaching them, asking questions, taking pictures. Greg pushed through the crowd toward the stage, shouting at the technical crew, "Shut it down! This is illegal!" But the damage was done. The final image was a photo of all 5 conspirators together at a restaurant, toasting with champagne. The caption, taken from Chelsea's Instagram, read, "To new beginnings and getting what we deserve." Girls' Night. New chapter. Sorry, not sorry. The screen went black. The crowd buzzed with excitement, speculation, and judgment. In a community where reputation was everything, Lena and her friends had just become pariahs. I watched from across the festival grounds as Lena's world collapsed in real time. Her gym clients were staring, whispering, pulling their children away. Greg was being confronted by angry husbands who suddenly questioned their own wives' wellness retreats. My phone buzzed with a text from Lena. "I know this was you. We need to talk. Now." I typed back, "Check your email." The message I'd sent contained copies of everything. Her location data, the financial records showing money she'd moved to secret accounts, evidence of her plans to claim I was emotionally abusive to justify the divorce. My phone rang immediately. "Ethan, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you and your friends spent months planning to destroy me? How you were going to claim I was abusive to get a better settlement? How you've been living a double life while I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for your lifestyle? It's not... I never meant for it to go this far." "Sure you did. You just never meant to get caught. What do you want? Money? The house? I'll give you whatever you want." I looked across the festival grounds, where she stood surrounded by the wreckage of her reputation, her friends scattered, her lover arguing with festival security. "I don't want anything from you, Lena. I just wanted everyone to know the truth. You've ruined my life." "No," I said calmly. "I've revealed your life. There's a difference." I hung up and walked away from the festival, leaving behind the chaos I'd created. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. The intervention was officially canceled. 3 days after the festival, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, neighbors, former mutual friends who suddenly wanted to hear my side of the story. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the legal paperwork that would officially end my marriage. Lena had tried everything. Angry voicemails, tearful apologies, threats of lawsuits. Her lawyer had already dropped her after seeing the evidence of her planned fraud allegations. Greg's real estate business was hemorrhaging clients as word spread through Boston's tight-knit professional community. But they weren't done fighting. I was leaving my lawyer's office when they cornered me in the parking garage. Lena and Greg, both looking desperate and furious. She'd lost weight, her usual polished appearance replaced by dark circles and unwashed hair. Greg looked like he hadn't slept in days. "You bastard," Greg snarled, stepping into my path. "You destroyed everything." "I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it was real." Lena moved closer, her voice pleading. "Ethan, please. We can fix this. I made mistakes, but we can work through it." "Work through what? The affair? The lies? The plan to frame me for abuse?" "I never would have gone through with that. It was just insurance, in case you tried to take everything." Greg grabbed my arm. "You humiliated us in front of the entire town. My business is ruined. Her gym is closing. People cross the street to avoid us." I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back at his face. "Take your hand off me." "Or what? You'll call the cops? Sue me? You've already played all your cards." "Have I?" Something in my voice made him hesitate. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. "This is a live stream to my lawyer's security system. Everything we're saying is being recorded and stored off-site. So when you grabbed me just now, that's assault. When you threatened me, that's intimidation. When you both cornered me in an isolated parking garage, that's conspiracy." Greg dropped his hand like it was on fire. "But here's the really interesting part," I continued. "I've been documenting everything since the festival. The harassing phone calls, the drive-bys of my motel, the attempts to contact my employer, all of it adds up to stalking and harassment." Lena's face went pale. "We haven't been stalking you." "No? Then explain why Greg's Mercedes was parked outside my job site yesterday, or why you were in the grocery store parking lot at midnight Tuesday, sitting in your car, watching my motel room. They exchanged glances. Caught. I have restraining orders ready to file, I said calmly. Both of you, stay away from me, stay away from my work, stay away from anywhere I might be. You can't do this, Greg protested. We have rights. You had rights. You gave them up when you decided to destroy my life for your entertainment. I started walking toward my truck, but Lena called after me. What about us? What about 8 years of marriage? I turned back to face her one last time. What about them? You threw them away the moment you decided I wasn't worth being honest with. You and your friends spent months planning how to get rid of me, how to make me the villain in your story. Well, congratulations. You got rid of me. I loved you, she whispered. No, you loved the idea of me. The steady paycheck, the reliable husband, the safe backup plan. But you never loved me enough to tell me the truth. You loved me enough to lie to me for months while you built a new life behind my back. Greg stepped forward again. She deserves better than you? You're absolutely right. She deserves someone who will plan elaborate deceptions with her. Someone who will help her commit fraud and destroy innocent people for fun. Someone exactly like you. I got in my truck and rolled down the window. Enjoy each other. You're perfect together. As I drove away, I could see them in my rearview mirror, standing alone in the empty parking garage, finally facing the consequences of their choices. That evening, I sat in my motel room, signing the final divorce papers. Everything was settled. I kept my business, my truck, and my dignity. Lena kept the house she couldn't afford, the car payments she couldn't make, and the reputation she'd destroyed. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. Saw the news. Greg's company filed for bankruptcy. Lena's gym officially closed today. How do you feel? I typed back, free. And for the first time in 8 years, I actually was. 6 months later, I was rebuilding more than just other people's houses. I'd moved to a small town an hour west of Boston, started my own construction company, and bought a house that needed work but had good bones. Like me? I thought the Lena chapter was closed until she showed up at my job site on a cold February morning. She looked terrible. Thin, pale, wearing clothes that had seen better days. The BMW was gone, replaced by a rusted Honda that barely qualified as transportation. Hello, Ethan. My crew kept working, but I could feel their attention. Small towns had their own gossip networks, and my story had preceded me. Lena, what are you doing here? I needed to see you. To explain. Nothing to explain. We're divorced. You're free to live whatever life you want. That's just it. I don't have a life anymore. Greg left town after his business collapsed. My friends won't talk to me. My parents disowned me after they saw the festival footage online. I kept measuring lumber, not looking at her. That's unfortunate. I lost everything, Ethan. The house, the gym, my reputation. I'm working at a chain restaurant now, living in a studio apartment above a laundromat. Sounds like you're experiencing the consequences of your choices. I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong. But did you have to destroy my entire life? I set down my measuring tape and looked at her directly. I didn't destroy your life, Lena. I revealed it. Everything that happened to you was the natural result of your own actions. But you orchestrated it. You planned the whole thing. I told the truth. In public. That's all I did. You could have just divorced me quietly. We could have worked something out. Like the something you and Greg were working out? The fake abuse allegations? The hidden assets? The plan to take everything and leave me with nothing? She had no answer for that. You want to know what's really sad? I continued. If you had just been honest with me, if you had said you weren't happy and wanted out, I would have let you go. We could have ended things civilly, split everything fairly, and moved on with our lives. I was scared. You were greedy. There's a difference. One of my crew members approached with a question about the foundation work. I answered him, then turned back to Lena. You need to leave. I have a business to run. Ethan, please. I'm asking for your forgiveness. Can't we at least try to be civil? We are being civil. I'm not calling the police, even though you're violating the restraining order by being here. I'm not having you arrested, even though you're trespassing on private property. I'm not suing you for the money you stole from our joint accounts. That's as civil as it gets. I never stole anything. I pulled out my phone and showed her bank records. $43,000 moved to accounts I didn't know existed, money you were planning to claim as separate property in the divorce. Her face crumpled. I was protecting myself. You were committing fraud, just like the fake abuse allegations you had drafted, just like the fake wellness retreats, just like everything else about our marriage. I loved you. No, You loved what I provided. Security, stability, someone to pay the bills while you played house with your boyfriend. But you never loved me enough to be honest with me. She started crying, but I felt nothing. The woman I'd loved for 8 years had been an illusion, a performance designed to keep me working and paying while she built a different life. What am I supposed to do now? She sobbed. The same thing everyone else does. Figure it out. Learn from your mistakes. Build something real instead of something fake. I can't do this alone. You were never alone. You had Greg, remember? Your soulmate, your spiritual connection. He used me. Once everything fell apart, he just disappeared. Shocking. A man who helps married women cheat turned out to be unreliable. Who could have seen that coming? I picked up my tools and started walking toward my truck. The conversation was over. Ethan, wait, please, I'm begging you. I stopped and turned around one final time. You know what the difference is between us, Lena. When my life fell apart, I rebuilt it. I took responsibility for my part in our problems, learned from my mistakes, and started over. You're still looking for someone else to save you. I just need a chance. You had a chance. 8 years of chances. You chose to waste them on lies and games and elaborate deceptions. That's not my problem anymore. I got in my truck and drove away, leaving her standing in the construction site parking lot, finally alone with the consequences of her choices. That night, I called Sam to tell him about the encounter. How do you feel? He asked. Relieved. Seeing her today confirmed something I'd been wondering about. What's that? Whether I'd made a mistake, whether I'd been too harsh, too vindictive. And I wasn't harsh enough. She still doesn't understand what she did wrong. She thinks she's the victim in this story. Some people never learn. Her problem now, not mine. I hung up and looked around my new house. It was smaller than the one I'd shared with Lena, but it was honest. No hidden rooms, no secret lives, no elaborate deceptions, just solid construction and good bones. Like the life I was building to go with it. The intervention was canceled. The marriage was over. The revenge was complete. And I was finally free to build something real. The end character count, 65,847. Stvorano. 2025, 11, 10, 0807, 16.